to the Canon Creative Studio for our Sundance 2026. Woo! My name is Cindy Bear, and I am the event specialist for Canon Burbank. So if you're going to be in the Los Angeles area, I just wanted to let you know that Canon Burbank is available to you. We are a community hub for photographers and filmmakers, and we're going to host all kinds of great events like the ones you're going to see here in our space this week at Sundance. So besides presentations and panels and workshops, we also host screenings for projects that were shot on Canon. And we offer individual demos and tests of our gear by appointment. So you're welcome to stop by if there's some new gear you've been eyeing. And if you have an idea for an event you'd like to do at Canon Burbank, feel free to talk to me. I'll be in the space. We also have a banner back there with a QR code. You can scan that and you'll be notified of events that we have going on, or you can take a postcard. So I look forward to seeing you at Canon Burbank. And now, without further ado, our first panel of Sundance 2026, I'm going to introduce you to our senior tech rep, senior specialist, Matthew Irving. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate that. Yes. So I'm actually based in Canon Burbank, so if you do come in for any demos there, I'm the guy who will be doing it. But it's great to see you all here. It's great to be at Sundance 2026. How many have been to Sundance before? How many are Sundance vets? All right, yeah. So first times, let me see the first time hands. All right, yes, great. You got to Park City before it did its big move. So yeah, it is bittersweet. I have a great long history with Sundance myself. I was a cinematographer in my pre-Canon life. And I've had 5 features here over the years, and it's just such a special place. My highlights were the rave movie Groove was bought by Sony Classics back in 2000, and Waitress was bought by Fox Searchlight in 2007. And it's just so much fun when you're part of a movie that has a big buzz going. How many are here with a movie right now? How many have a movie in the festival? Great, well, congratulations. That's fantastic and exciting. And really just kind of try to be present and soak up that experience. Really happy to be here today for Tech Talk. I guess nobody likes the front row. I guess is it something? I took a breath mint. But we're here. We're lucky enough to have Derek Johnson from Adobe joining us here. And we are going to be talking specifically about Frame.io camera-to-cloud compatibility that is built into our Canon cinema cameras. And if we could bring up the first slide, Joey. Great, so this is our current cinema lineup, all inclusive of everything, including the cameras that do not have the Frame.io, but this is everything we've got going right now, and all of these cameras are out in the main touch and try area. We have a camera for every project, so I definitely invite you to wander back out there, not right now, and try out these cameras. With the top 2 listed there are hybrid cameras that are very high quality stills camera in stills mode, and then they actually switch over right brain, left brain into cinema mode, become our full cinema cameras with our cinema menus and all of our kind of cinema features. And in fact, they're both even Netflix approved now. The C50 was just Netflix approved as of last week. The middle cameras there are kind of the old guard left in the lineup, but they're still there and we still have them out in the touch and try. There are Super 35 size cinema cameras. The sensors are Super 35, the C70 and the C300 Mark III. And, but people still love them. They swear by their cameras. These are all workhorses that even though they're a little bit older, these cameras, people still love them. And then our newest cinema cameras at the bottom, the C80 and the C400, have kind of taken over the line. And we're now all RF mount on the whole line, except for that old guy, the C300 Mark III, is still PL or EF switchable. But all RF. And if we can now go to the next slide, Joey. These are the cameras we'll be talking about today. So from that whole list, these are the ones that have built-in Wi-Fi and Frame.io compatibility. And that includes our hybrid camera, the C50, which is our most recent addition to the line. This just started shipping in December, this camera. And it is 32 megapixel stills or 7K video. And the bottom 2 cameras have the same sensor, It's a 6K full frame sensor on both of those cameras. They both have triple base ISO, so there are excellent cameras in low light. If you're shooting log or raw, they can have the bases base 800, base 3200, and base 12,800, so very good in low light. And the big difference between those two bottom cameras is that they are just different form factors. One's, you know, the kind of cube camera, and the other one's the smaller, old school DSLR style. But same sensor, and just some different capabilities. But like I said, these three cameras have the built-in Wi-Fi, and that allows them to do either camera control through our multi-camera control app, or you can put them in to Frame.io mode and send a proxy of your footage to the cloud. And this is what we're going to talk about during this next hour with Derek. We're going to show off I'm going to show off sort of what the camera side can do, and then literally there's the handoff when we can kind of give it over to Derek's side of things on Frame.io. Before I go on the camera side of things, Derek, do you want to kind of give a better definition than I did about camera to cloud? Do you have a good succinct Adobe definition?
I do, actually, a little bit. So camera to cloud isn't a workflow, it's a way to enable any type of workflow that you're trying to accomplish. So I don't know if anybody's ever shot anything where they wanted more eyes on it sooner or wanted to get that to editorial. I don't know if anyone's ever dealt with shipping hard drives or getting feedback over email or text and just like really missing out on like a centralized way to collaborate on video, photo assets, and all of that. That's what Camera to Cloud enables. It's the Sundance Institute is using it at the festival right now. So if you're looking at anything from the Institute on social media, those are shooters going all around the city, connected over Wi-Fi. They're shooting proxies in real time. Those are going to the editors at Sundance HQ. So it's just a very exciting new way to work. And yeah, I'm going to show a little bit of Frame.io later. I've got some slides. I'll give you a demo of that and kind of show you what that looks like in real time, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. It really is an amazing workflow pipeline, and it can really help you avoid some of the worst things about production. Like as a DP, I used to hate reshoots if I had to go back and recreate a set or recreate some lighting because we missed a setup or we missed a reaction shot or something didn't time out right. You'd have to recreate that later. But now, as Derek says, you have more eyes on it right away.
A specific example kind of tying into that as far as like reshoots goes. I know there was a feature film that I worked on last year, and this is a production company or a company that does a lot of holiday movies. You can fill in the gaps there. But they did one feature film that shot on an LED screen, and something came up with like flickering, or they had some sort of issue, and they needed everything to get approved by their like international stakeholders. So on their next feature, they were like, we need camera to cloud. Everything we shoot needs to go up to them. We need eyes on it immediately, because by the time we're going to go through the traditional dailies process, it'll be a couple days later. We've already moved on to an entirely new location. And as we know, LED production can be pretty time-consuming and very expensive. So that was a huge time savings, and gave them like confidence. Like, all right, they like what we got. Moving on. We don't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah, great. And it's not just even about coverage. Sometimes it gets footage to an editor 3,000 miles away instantly using a proxy in our case. So you shoot your raw 12-bit full-frame file onto the CF Express cards on our cameras, or an SD card #1 in the case of the C80 here, and you record a smaller HD proxy, a small file size that shares the same metadata, so you can link them up later. You shoot a small proxy at the same time onto the second card, and it's that proxy. When you hit stop on the clip, that proxy uploads to Frame.io, and then anyone logging into that Frame.io account 3,000 miles away, you could be in Alaska shooting and you have your editor in New York, they can start editing with it, or a producer or a client who can't get to the set can start commenting on it in real time. You might be on a commercial and the producer who couldn't make it to the set goes, oh my God, that red carpet is clashing with our Coca-Cola red, we need to trade that out immediately. And you're still on set, you're still dealing with that, so you can do it instantaneously. So it's a communication hub that just really avoids a lot of headaches by getting footage out there instantaneously. So I'm going to just start to demo a little bit about how we can get to that on the camera side, and then we'll literally do the handoff, and Derek will take over on Adobe side to show you how that works. What I love about this as a guy who demos a lot of stuff for Canon is, knock on wood, it's demo-wise, it's pretty bulletproof. You know, there's a lot of technology we demo and stuff sometimes goes wrong and you laugh and you say, oh, this usually works. But this is so easy and it's so great. I'm only worried because the Wi-Fi is a little spotty up here in the hills, but usually it's just so easy and pretty much anyone could just get into the menu and do it very quickly. So Joey, can you bring up the camera menu, please? So this is our, hey, you're all looking great out there. This is great. I hope you all memorized your lines because you're going to be expected to know them. So this is the C80, one of the 3 cameras, as I mentioned, that does camera to cloud. And so the first thing you're going to do when you're preparing for camera to cloud is put 2 cards in. You're going to need cards in both slots. There is no talking to Frame IO without a card in that secondary slot because the proxy records to the card first and then sends to the cloud when you hit stop on the clip. This allows you to keep shooting. If your next shot is ready before that clip has loaded, it'll just pause the upload to the cloud and you can shoot away as many times as you want. And it will queue up the clips that need to be sent to the cloud that are living on that proxy card. So you'll have two cards living in it. You'll see in the upper left, I have my 1 card recording RAW, and I've got 30 minutes of footage on that card. The other one, I have a very low bitrate proxy set, so I can record 3,633 minutes of this proxy on that second card. So I think we're good to go for a while. As you go in and set your settings here, you'll see that I'm full frame, RAW, 2398 at 6,000 by 3164, and that's what's going to my on the other camera, CF Express card, this camera just has SD cards. So that's going to my SD card A. And then I keep going down in the menu and I find second card functions. This is going to be turned off by default. So you're going to have to turn it on and select main and proxy. And then you can even select which codec you want to send to your proxy. XFABC, XFABCS, or XFHEBCS. And these are all very low data rates. I always choose 10-bit because I always like to have a higher bit depth. And then you can even choose something down to as low as 9 megabits a second. And again, this is just for the editor to work with. This is just for people to see. You can conform this later to your raw footage. So we're good to go here on the second card. So that's all done and ready. So you go to the camera's networking menu. And by default, this will actually be turned off. This will be disabled when you kind of get to the camera. So you're going to enable that. And I'm going to disconnect this now to show you the process, because I already had it hooked up and I forgot to disconnect it before this. So talk amongst yourselves. Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Discuss. Okay. Oh, no. Go back to the menu. So now that we're disconnected, you're going to go through the new connection setting. So it's going to walk you through the type of connection you're going to do is Frame IO. We're fully partnered with them, so we have full Frame IO compatibility. So you're going to select Frame IO. It says we're going to help you out. I say thank you. I'm going to create a new communication setting, Wi-Fi. It's thinking about it. This is where you take a sip of coffee. This is quality broadcasting right here. Okay, so now is when you find your different Wi-Fi options. And here's where I'm going to diverge from actually stepping you through it step by step in the essence of time. But you're basically going to hook up to a Wi-Fi network. You're going to enter any password that Wi-Fi network needs. The only difficulty here is some Wi-Fi networks require dual authentication, and it's not going to be able to hook up to a dual authentication source. But if your Wi-Fi is just password protected, you'll be able to hook up no problem with this. Eventually, it's going to establish an IP address for the camera, which is very easy. You can set it on automatic. And then just 2 steps later, it's going to generate a 6-digit code. Because it will have hooked up to Frame IO, and it will generate a 6-digit code. And that is where the handoff is going to happen on the Adobe side. And Derek will show you that part. Is there any questions so far about camera side? It really couldn't be more easy because it helps step you through it. Any questions on the camera hookup side? I'm actually going to reconnect my, for the demo later, I'm going to reconnect this. So it's reconnecting the Frame.io connection that I already had made. And then the key to all of this is, you'll see up in the upper left, the Wi-Fi symbol and the Frame.io symbol are yellow, but they're turning white right in front of our eyes. So yellow means you're not connected, white means you're connected. So we're good to go right now. So if I were to roll the clip right now, and you're all doing great performances, and then I stop the clip, that proxy is immediately, it's queuing up there as clip number 1. And he'll show you later, the clip is already populating in Frame.io and it's getting transferred over. We have a little bit of a slow Wi-Fi here, but it's already gone. So now that clip has gone to Frame.io and he'll be able to use it on his side. So that's the camera side of things. It couldn't be more easy. And again, if you wanted to get some sort of hands-on, we have a Frame.io camera to cloud demo over here as well. But Derek, I think this is where you take it away. And so Joey, we can, yeah, thank you. And so where does our clip go from there? What would you like to talk about next?
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about going a little more in depth on camera to cloud, some best practices and kind of supporting that. I'm going to go over Frame.io, some of the latest kind of new features we've got there, and just give you a little demo of what this all looks like. So I'll go ahead and, if we could, Joey, bring up my, my slide here, the presentation. There we go. Cool. So yeah, so happy to be here at Sundance. This is my second year at Sundance, and so stoked to be here at the Canon House and speaking to all of you. Sundance is near and dear to my heart, and I love everything that it represents. So happy to be a part of that. I'm Derek Johnson. I'm a senior production support specialist at Frame.io and Adobe, and I'm on the partnerships team. And one of our great partnerships is Canon, so happy to be supporting that. A little bit of my background: I used to work as a camera assistant in DIT and Local 600 for close to 10 years, and I've been at Adobe for a couple of years now. So to start things off, I guess, any show of hands, any Frame.io users here? Anybody familiar with Frame.io? Big fan? Thumbs up? Yeah, cool, love it. That's the response we usually get, and that's one of my favorite parts of my job. But for those of you who aren't familiar, basically Frame.io is a creative management platform for all of your creative work in progress. It really got its start in video, but it's branched out to so many other things. That can be photography, PDFs, documents, any type of work you need to collaborate on others on and get feedback on, go through that iterative process. That's what it's all about. And it can kind of be your centralized hub for all of your creative assets, all the way from pre-production to post-production. And it serves as a hub for all your creative stakeholders to have conversations around the creative assets themselves. And so those of you who are familiar with Frame.io, how about show of hands, anybody heard of Camera to Cloud before showing up here today? A couple of people? Okay, so it's a pretty new thing. But yeah, like we've said before, we kind of went over it already, what Camera to Cloud is, but I want to just share a couple of stories of some cool use cases. And I'll reiterate, it's not any one workflow, it enables the workflow you're trying to do. And all the time I'm seeing really cool, interesting use cases from different customers and different projects. So one project that comes to mind is last year I supported a feature film that had a lot of stunt work, a lot of action work with their second unit. And the main unit and second unit would be shooting concurrently, like almost every day, and they'd be in completely different locations. So how do you get the director to approve the work that the second unit is doing? How can they speed up that process? That's where Camera to Cloud really came into play. The director had an iPad on his director's cart, and they would get him on the phone, text him, email, whatever, be like, hey, second unit's got some clips for you to look at. He would look at them in his iPad, play them back, and he could get feedback in real time, or be like, hey, that's exactly what we need for this stunt, whatever. And then they knew they could move on with confidence. Like, all right, director likes it, moving on, instead of waiting a couple days later for the dailies process or just kind of guessing that he liked it. That was huge and beneficial for them. And, you know, they first started out using that, but then the set photographer was like, hey, Frame.io, I really like that. Can I put all my BTS photos in there? and they used Camera to Cloud as like kind of a pre-dailies process, and then when they got their final colored hero dailies, those would go into Frame.io as well. So Camera to Cloud doesn't really replace that necessarily if you don't want it to. Those things can kind of work concurrently together. And beyond that, I've seen Camera to Cloud kind of work as a distributed video village. Obviously, we love our VTR operators and everything that they do, but sometimes you just want to see a clip from a couple weeks ago, or say the set dresser. All right, we're doing reshoots, we're matching that shot from a couple weeks ago. How was the placement on the couch, things like that. You can pull up Frame.io on your phone, pull up those clips yourself, be able to check that without always bothering the VTR operator. So those are just a couple of examples that I like there, but it's not just for video. It can be call sheets, camera reports, previs for your VFX, like I said, BTS photos, all of that. And you can kind of customize it to fit your needs. But those are kind of some bigger examples, high-level projects to kind of ground things a little bit here and bring it more to something that might be a little more relatable for more independent shooters. There was a really cool music video that I supported last year in Nashville. I'm going to show a video going over this a little bit, but it was these two brothers. They have a production company called The Outbound Life. They shot a music video in Nashville, and their editor was in Chicago, and they used Canon C400s and C80s. They had Wi-Fi in the stage, so that was all taken care of. They got those paired, and while they were shooting, everything was going up to the editor. He was able to look at that, give them feedback in real time. They were able to pull up clips on their phones, show it to the artists, and this was like a real scrappy crew of maybe a dozen people or something like that, and it still worked very well for them. So let's go ahead and show that first video. Joe?
Director duo from the Outbound Life. In our latest project, we had the privilege of directing a music video for Ben Rector's new song featuring that party.
Tom Road, 1-1-B. We're making a fictional world here. We're just here to play. All this footage is being uploaded directly from camera to the cloud. Yeah. Truly couldn't do it without every single one of you. Let's have some fun.
With a tight turnaround, we leaned on cutting-edge tools to stay nimble and creative. At the center of it all really was Frame.io's new Camera to Cloud technology. Game changer for filmmakers like us. Oh, dude, this is great. Shooting on Canon C400 and C80, we were able to upload footage to the cloud in real time.
So we have a remote editor back in Chicago who is literally watching this footage while we're filming.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey man, good to see you.
So if you see these collections in Frame.io, I have one that's called Me Review. So these are just a couple clips that I pulled that I just think it'd be worth taking a quick look over to make sure that you're happy with, especially the shadow detail in there.
Great. Even Ben and Matt were able to watch takes moments after we captured them, literally from an iPhone.
So this, I feel like you guys were starting to really get into.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
that level of collaboration mid-shoot really was just unheard of a few years ago.
I think it would have been a different shoot without that probably. Because we would have done takes and would have been like, is this good or bad?
It gave us a dynamic flow between performance, review, and refinement.
I think the one that you jump out, definitely start out of frame. Let him just kind of be hanging, and then you should come.
Do that. I'll
Jump
run
out
that
and like
to you.
start running.
Yes. 100%.
Great example. Hello. Love this example because it's scrappy. It's not a huge movie crew, and we all know that whatever size production you're on, time is your most valuable resource. Time and communication, and how communication can speed up that time. Like once that production faucet starts flowing, it doesn't stop. So all of this kind of communication that was in that video is crucial just to make things run quickly and efficiently. So
Yeah, and they didn't have to like fly their editor out to Nashville. That could be some cost savings there. And another thing I forgot to add to that is they had a rough cut to show the artist at the end of the day, which was like pretty unheard of, super cool. So they were stoked on that. And yeah, that's the Outbound Life. I'm gonna go back to my my presentation here, and I'll kind of educate you guys a little bit and kind of what it takes to support Camera to Cloud. And any questions on what we've discussed thus far from the group? Before I move on, feel free to raise a hand or interrupt me if you have a question about anything I'm kind of talking about. Hey, it's okay. It's a busy festival. There's a lot of things to check out. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about connectivity. That's going to sort of be the backbone of camera to cloud, and what you need to support that. Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Quick question. I love you brought up the second unit
Yeah.
in tandem with the director.
Yeah, main unit and second unit collaborating with camera to cloud.
That's a
Yep.
huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is there anything you would favor in terms of sort of relaying that footage? In terms of an iPad, I noticed they were using iPhone or a cell phone.
Yeah, there's an iOS app, so iPhone, iPads, there's an app directly to do that. All this is on the web too, so if you have an Android, laptop, whatever, it's just, frame.io, you go to the website and you can access that footage. We have what's called share links, which makes it really easy to share content out to stakeholders. I could show that a little bit later, but you can basically be like, all right, this folder, these assets, whatever, send to this person. They've got a link, you can password protect it, customize it, and it's really easy just to look at stuff and give feedback on it. So on that feature film, it was an iPad on the director's cart. That's what he liked the best for that. But editorial was accessing Frame.io on their laptops. At the main office there, production, on their laptops. So a lot of different ways to access that stuff.
It's a huge game changer in terms of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything that you need to get eyes on or feedback goes hand in hand with that very well.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So yeah, like I was saying, internet connectivity is kind of a big part in the foundation. You can't go to the cloud if you don't have an internet connection. Same thing if you're trying to upload something to social media off your phone. If you don't have cellular, you don't have internet, that's not going to work for you. So I want to kind of get into some best practices and a couple ideas here. Let's see, did I skip something on my bullet point? Upload speeds, I'll show that in the next slide. But basically, when you're kind of like in the early stages of thinking about a project with camera to cloud, one of the first questions is going to be what's going to be the internet connectivity I have available. So is there going to be Wi-Fi at the building? Is there going to be a Captain Portal, something like that? Is there going to be an Ethernet drop? Or if that's not available, there's things like cellular internet or satellite internet that you can kind of think of ahead of time. But that's one of the first things I ask, like if I'm consulting on a project, is like, all right, what's going to be your internet source? And what ties into that is kind of the quality of proxies you want to upload. And here's my next slide here. So kind of tying into that, and Matt mentioned it a little bit. So the Canon cameras, you have different bit rates for video that you can upload. So step one, all right, what's my internet source? Step two is what are your internet speeds going to be? So something like satellite internet or cellular isn't going to be as fast as fiber connection, at a stage or something like that. And this is an internet speed test. I'm sure some of you have maybe used this before, but that's one of the tools I use quite a bit when supporting camera to cloud is what's the download speed, what's the upload speed, checking that all the time. And really for camera to cloud, uploads are what's going to matter the most. So in this specific example I did here, I had 135 megabits per second up. And that bit rate kind of equals to the amount of video bit rate you can be uploading at the same time. So in this example, say I had 100 megabits per second on my internet, I could have 4 cameras uploading 25 megabits per second in relative real time. The Canon cameras can go as low as 9 megabits, is that right, Matt?
Yeah, 9 megabits, and that's what we're set at now. And it really is remarkable. I mean, it's obviously best to get the highest internet speeds possible, but in a pinch, I've done demos using the hotspot on my phone, and it works. I find that just amazing that I could be at like Sammy's camera in Hollywood doing a demo of it using my phone. So, but this is obviously the best way to do it. But you can get down to 9 megabits a second.
And you kind of want to have that conversation of like, all right, what can we support? What's the highest quality that we're going to be happy with? If you're just looking at stuff for review, like even the lowest setting is going to be plenty for like, all right, I can see the frame, what's in there, like, oh, there's a Starbucks cup in the shot, it's going to be plenty for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wish they had that on that Game of Thrones episode.
Yeah, seriously. And then like with the Sundance Institute, for example, we kind of found that middle ground with the Canon cameras. They're shooting 15 megabits per second. So not the lowest, but not the highest either. And that was like a good middle ground between fast uploads and good quality video. And kind of related to that, I want to talk about like some networking hardware that I like. There's so many different options there. Like you can pick and choose whatever you like, but a couple things that I like is there's a company called gl.inet, and they make a lot of different routers and stuff, but they make these great little travel routers that you can power off a little battery bank. Everyone on my team, we usually have at least one of these in our backpack. And what something like this can do is, say you're somewhere that has a username and a login to get to the Wi-Fi. The cameras aren't smart enough to do that, to access that captive portal. So what this little travel router can do is you can interface with it on your phone or laptop and say, this network, this is the username, this is the password, and then it shares that internet with all of your camera to cloud devices, so they don't have to worry about that. So super handy. You can plug it into Ethernet, you can plug your phone into it. Now, it'll boost the signal as your phone as a hotspot, and they're like, I don't know, $100, $150, depending on which model you get. I'm a huge fan there. And if anyone wants to ever get like super fancy with really elaborate networking, I'm a big fan of Ubiquiti. You can really scale that up or down depending on what type of network you're trying to build, but that's for the super nerds out there, but shout out to Ubiquiti.
But you can buy Ubiquiti everywhere.
Quite ubiquitous, yes. And, talking about different cellular options for camera to cloud, kind of a good, better, best. Some different examples is there's a company called Sclera Digital. They sell bonded cellular modems for rental. So if you got a really high stakes project where you need dedicated priority cellular, that's a great option. They can power off of Ionic batteries. I've got a few with me as a backup here to support the Sundance Institute. But you can always buy your own dedicated hotspot, get that connected to, get a SIM card in there and have your own just singular hotspot. That'll be plenty for a couple of cameras if you've got good connectivity. And like Matt was saying, at the end of the day, you can still use your hotspot on your phone and connect that too, but just be aware of your data policies and everything on your plan. It can eat it up real quick.
And the clips will start queuing up. You will start to get a queue of them, but they will upload when they have a chance. Just leave the camera on, and after you're done shooting, and they'll just keep uploading until they're done.
Yep. And I've even seen people use camera to cloud in interesting ways where they'll go out in the field and shoot all day and just take their camera home or home base, let it connect, it builds up that queue. Once it's on internet, it all starts uploading. So it's kind of a backwards way to do it, but that's certainly possible.
Yeah, and that's of course only if you have a slow Wi-Fi or if you're using your phone, because these fast options he's talking about, they'll upload very quickly and have the more real-time experience we've been talking about.
Yeah. And speaking of poor internet connections, on my next slide here, I'll talk about satellite internet a little bit. So right now, Starlink is kind of the main player in the game, but I know Amazon is coming out with some satellite options, but this is great. These are some stills from a shoot the Adobe production team did in Agua Dulce Airport outside of Los Angeles, and they were 0 bars for cell signal, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. But we needed a way for our stakeholders in New York to look at the footage we were filming. So at our base camp, we had a bigger model hooked up to our DIT there to upload colored stills and things like that. And we had a armed car, like crane vehicle, driving around the airport. And we put a little Starlink Mini with a magnet mount there. And that was uploading proxies while they were driving around all over the place, shooting this woman on a motorcycle. So if you go to the Adobe house and you see some footage of a woman on a moped, this is basically how we do that shoot there. And it was pretty amazing, even with the crane in the way sometimes, it was still fast enough to upload lightweight proxies, and super cool. So there's always options for internet. And related to that, I kind of want to talk about the Sundance Film Festival. Adobe has been supporting the Sundance Film Festival for a long time now. In the last few years, they've been using camera to cloud. We're really excited that this year they're using Canon cameras with a native integration. Super stoked for that. In the past, they found other solutions to work with that before the native integration was available.
Yeah, so there's a case study video we're about to show, which is great, and it really shows how the whole thing works. It is from a couple years ago before we had the integration, so it's with Canon cameras, but we had a different way of getting to the cloud than the built-in. So the model of the cameras are different in this video, but the application is completely the same and is what's happening right now around the streets of Park City.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the workflow in these slides a little bit, and then we'll show the video. Basically, I created a flow chart of what their workflow kind of used to look like before they had camera to cloud. And
What's tech talk without a flow chart?
Yeah, gotta have the flow charts. So it used to be individual camera teams going out and shooting. It'd be a videographer, producer, a couple people like that. But they had to have a runner with each team that was filming because they had to run cards back to Sundance HQ to try and get things downloaded, transcoded as soon as possible. But as we all know, well, it's very warm this year, but most years there's a lot of winter weather, there's a lot of snow, traffic, we're all dealing with that, travel time. Then they'd have to take it to the HQ, upload the footage to a SAN, then get that to Adobe Premiere, then the editorial team would have to make web deliverables, get that to the stakeholders, they'd have to email, text, make phone calls, travel back and forth from HQ to get approval on things. And with Camera to Cloud, the flowchart got much simpler. Basically, everybody's out filming, they're connected to Camera to Cloud, that goes directly to Frame.io. Editorial can get to that. There's a really awesome Frame.io panel built directly in Premiere Pro where you can access all the footage, they can edit it, make their web deliverables, and then all the stakeholders go to Frame and can add comments and approve that as well. So it really simplified the workflow, and we'll show a video where they kind of talk about it.
Where careers are made, lots of different hopes and dreams. We are there to try and capture that. That sense of anticipation, that excitement.
A lot of this content is shot and produced and turned around on the same day.
So the Adobe Suite is the center of our world.
We've maintained complete parity between Premiere production and Frame.io.
And Camera to Cloud is really key to our success.
Our team was responsible for a lot of content during the festival.
These pieces include our hero content, which is called the Daily Recap,
Press clips,
social media,
TikTok, Facebook,
We also capture our panel discussions.
and delivering for everybody at home.
We are in the middle of a mountain town in the middle of the winter.
But when Sundance hits, that's tens of thousands of people that are flying into Park City.
Traffic everywhere, icy road conditions. We're supposed to be everywhere throughout the day. So that makes it really hard when we have these things like the Daily Recap.
Because our daily recap video, if you can believe it, is being shot and then put out into theaters the very next day. The biggest hurdle for us absolutely is time. We had about a dozen camera teams in the field at any given time, and with them is a field producer with a Sclera,
These modems.
that are practically military grade, and then most importantly, they all had an Atmos Ninja on the top. The Ninja was critical because without the Ninja, we can't connect to Camera to Cloud.
It was amazing to know that once you press cut on a clip, that's going straight up into Frame.io, directly back to our offices.
More than a half dozen editors are cutting throughout the day, all the way through into the wee hours of the night.
Our schedules are as watertight as humanly possible.
We're getting every single take as they come in.
Some are already working on string outs for the daily recap for that day. Our producers were double checking that all the footage that we were shooting was coming in. Suddenly our approach to the way we started to build the stories shifted.
One of the biggest impacts is simply time saving. I mean, that may seem sort of obvious, but in this context, it's everything. Adobe Premiere is at the bleeding edge, being able to integrate stuff like Camera to Cloud. We were able to do almost everything inside of Premiere, things like motion graphics and captioning. It was important that every film be accessible, so we used Adobe Premiere speech to text to build open captions that were burned in on every video this year.
Great example that I think really brings it all home vividly, and I do want to discuss one more time that at that time they needed the Ninja to get to the cloud, and now we've removed that step by integrating the Frame.io compatibility into the C50, the C80, and the C400 directly, and they're using C400s this year?
Yep.
It's all C400s.
Yeah, they've got, I think, a dozen C400s.
So if you see a crew out there shooting with it, just compliment them on their C400.
Yeah, and I got a couple more slides left here, and then I'll get into Frame.io and demo that for you guys. But kind of my next slide I've got is just kind of some best practices when using Camera to Cloud. Kind of the first thing is always make sure your firmware is the most up to date on your camera. There's always hot fixes coming through, improvements. It's always good to check that, make sure you're using the latest and greatest. Big thing is checking the clock and the time zone as well for frame IO on your camera to all kind of be congruent with each other. You want to make sure you're set on the right time zone. Frame IO also creates like a date folder automatically, so you want to make sure your date is correctly and the footage goes where it needs to go. And just making sure you have the correct file types selected for upload. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a call or an email or like, oh, it's not working. It's like, well, do you have the, is your setting set to uploading the correct file types or set to upload at all? So with anything, check it, prep it, make sure everything's set up correctly. And you want to make sure you've got fresh formatted media for starting off right away. And just checking your video output settings are all correct as well. And then while you're shooting, like I said before, a solid internet connection is always going to be good. Being aware of your upload queue and speeds. Maybe having a backup option just in case. And kind of an interesting one that I run into a lot is you have to change your mindset a little bit. Normally when you're shooting, it's like, all right, I got the shot, power the camera off, we're moving on. So keep it powered on for a little bit, let those uploads finish. So you got to kind of re-engineer that thinking a little bit. It's always like save the battery, turn it off. Just give it a minute to upload, let it finish. And with anything with technology, when in doubt, if you try turning it on and off again, that's my go-to.
That's always the go-to
solution. So
as for letting it finish the upload, you will have a number in the upper left of the number of clips that still need to upload, and you can get into a queue of clips that will show a percentage. Now with our newest firmware, will show a percentage that the clip is along in its upload. So you can see that the clip is about 75% uploaded, and there's still a clip waiting after that. Yes, you have a question?
Yeah, did that power off the camera? When you power back on, you don't lose your cache, right? Your cache and all those things still there?
Correct. It's going to resume wherever you left it. And that's the beauty of the proxy recording to the second card first. Is it's not just left in the ether somewhere. It's actually physically on the card, and it's going to start to access that from the card again when you power back on.
Yeah, and every kind of camera to cloud integration we have with all of our different partners, we go through a really strict certification process for that. And one of the things we do is we shoot a whole bunch of clips, pull the power, pull the internet, disconnect the Wi-Fi, like do as much as we can to make it difficult, to make sure, okay, it picks up where it left off. Cool, that's certified on our end. So I'm gonna...
What could possibly go wrong?
Technology, it's always flawless, right? I'm going to show frame IO here. I'm mirroring. Yeah, there we go. So, okay, again, show of hands, any frame IO users? Okay. Do you know, are you using V4? Does it look like this? Have you updated yet to the latest and greatest? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you why version 4 is so awesome, and you're going to want to switch right away. No, I'm just kidding. I get it. Like, you know what works for you, if you're always like a little skeptical, but it's over. Version 4 has been out for more than a year now, and we are constantly rolling out updates and quality of life improvements, and it's really come a long way. So I'll show you a little bit what that looks like. So
I was wondering if we could, I don't want to throw you off, but I was wondering if we could start off. I talked about how when you go through the networking menu in the camera, it's going to end you up with a 6-digit code to pair with Frame IO. So it'll literally say, okay, we're already linked to Frame IO, here's a 6-digit code. So the next step for you then would be?
Yeah, this is the C2C Connections tab on the bottom left hand. So in Frame IO version 4, you go to that, and this is going to be your hub to where you can see all of your cameras and devices that are connected. We can see, all right, C80 Sundance. I can even click on that. And what's really cool is I can pause that, I can remove it. Say Matt was a freelancer for me and I only want him to shoot for me today, I could do an expiration date on that. That's really good if you're like renting cameras and you don't want their stuff going up into your project down the road. And like I said before, there's the time zone. I want to make sure that's set up correctly. And what I really like is this shows recent assets that were captured. So I can double click on that and that'll take me directly to where that is. So it makes it really easy to see the most recent stuff.
Can you go back just for 1 second? I'm so sorry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But so this C80 is already hooked up, but if it wasn't, you'd hook up the new the new C2C connection, and that's where you would have this 6-digit code here. You literally just put in that 6-digit code, you say yes on this, you say yes on this, and it's going to hook up and become that connection that we already have set here on the C80.
Yep, and that's just a rolling 6-digit code that the device creates, and it updates like every minute or two for security purposes. And I've done it on some projects where someone will be out in the field, they don't even really have access to the Frame.io project, but they're connected, and they'll be like over the phone, like, all right, give me your 6-digit code, type it in, it's paired, and then it'll start uploading assets automatically. So thank you for reminding me of that. We've even got the option to connect to Lightroom if you've got a stills camera, which is pretty exciting. And we go to our recent assets here, and let's take a look at this wonderful crowd here. So we shot that a little bit earlier. We could start shooting other clips that would get queued up. I can be looking at this. So Frame.io, a big part of that is the commenting. So I can say, this is one hand here, so bear with me if I spell this wrong. I'm going to say great crowd. No, I already screwed it up. It's my first day, guys. Sorry. One-handed typing is hard. I'll say great crowd. I could attach, we've got the option for attachments now, so I could upload like a screen grab of like, no, make the framing a little bit more like this, or color it like this. I've got the option to do that. There's emojis for all the folks that love using emojis to express themselves. And I've got annotation as well, so I could like put an arrow here, and I can tell Matt like close up of this logo. So I can give some feedback like that. You can see it on this phone, adjust the shot in real time.
And all these comments are being earmarked for that time code moment. So it's not just a comment that's going to fall into the whole clip. It's actually going to make a notation at that point in the clip that the editor or producers can reference.
Yeah, and I can do a time code range as well. So I did in and out points. This is a pretty short clip. Let's say it was a really extensive edit. I could say like, highlight, reel, and I can put that here. We can check off comments as the work gets done. We can reply to those comments and make it conversational, go back and forth. So it's really easy to know like what's the feedback I'm getting, has this been approved, can we move on, those types of things. And also related to that, we've got a whole bunch of metadata populated automatically from the camera as well. A lot of different settings we could turn on or off to help us organize that, but I won't get too deep into that.
And I never metadata I didn't like.
Very nice, very nice.
You're a great crowd.
Related to that, so yeah, let me take a step back here a little bit and talk a little bit about Frame.io version 4. This came out over a year ago. It was a complete redesign from the ground up, and it's kind of based on this different panel system that we have here. So I could turn this off. I could keep it super clean and minimalist. I could turn this on the left-hand side. This gives me like a Finder-like experience, like you might see on a Mac. Below that is what's called collections. These are smart folders based on different metadata tags you can turn on or off. So I've got one here called Legal Hub, and I did a field called Legal Review. So anything that gets clicked with Legal Review automatically goes into this collection, and I could share this out really easily with my legal team. And I'll hit done here. Here's Legal Hub. And say I check this off on one of them, and I refresh the page. Now it's only 3 documents. So this dynamically updates, and it's going to be one static link that the legal team only has to worry about. So instead of giving them a new link every single time something changes, you can know, all right, this is the link for the legal team or the producers team, whoever that might be. And I've got a lot of different options here based on if I want them to be able to comment on it, do I want them to be able to download it, passphrases, watermarking, forensic watermarking for enterprise customers, all sorts of cool stuff. But related to that, I could turn on this third panel here, and I'll pull up some footage. And now it's really easy to toggle between different clips, and I can play them back and look at the organization at the same time. And I can even turn on this third panel, so I can be switching between assets, I can be playing it back, I can be looking at those comments, all in real time, or I can turn all this off and keep it pretty minimalist as well. So kind of.
Yeah, the organization of these panels is fantastic. I have like a total OCD personality, and I love the way it instantly organizes into folders. When you're shooting, you shoot your first clip of the day, and that clip will populate in its own folder that's just been started for that particular date. because your camera has the correct date and time set up on it before you start your Frame IO. So it's talking to Frame IO with that date and time and organizing accordingly. So it's very well organized, and it does it all internally, so you don't have to create folder, drop this into that. As soon as you shoot your first clip on a particular date, that date will populate in a folder with the clips inside of it.
Yeah, it automatically creates this cloud devices folder. Then it's going to create one based on the date. So here's today's date. Then it'll separate video and stills. We've got video here. Then it'll have the name of each camera. You can make an A camera, B camera, the name of the operator, whatever you'd like. I could go into that, and then I can start looking at those clips. So all that's generated automatically, but with each camera. But say I had, a whole bunch of cameras, and I didn't want to keep clicking between folders. There's the option to flatten folders, so it'll just flatten all those, and it'll see everything in this directory for me. And another thing I wanted to show off real quick for kind of some newer features we've announced is we've got transcription built directly into Frame IO as well. So you have to, that's something you have to turn on or off, but it'll basically transcribe and follow along with the video as you're playing it. I know she talks about Alaska a few different times in this interview, so I can search Alaska and it'll take me directly to where that is within the video. And I can edit the transcription. You can say who the different speakers are. And at the end of the day, I can export this as an SRT or BTT file or a text file, which is very helpful. And kind of a newer thing we've got is natural language search and media intelligence as well.
So super cool.
Yeah.
You were just showing me this for the first time.
Yeah, similar to like how you talk to ChatGPT or something like that. Normally when you're searching for something, you have to be like very specific, but here's one I did earlier, and I can say, show me assets with status needs review. So anything with that tag, it's gonna make it really easy to find that. That's a cool one. I also did show me,
Blue bag.
see. Yeah, blue bag is a big one. This is media intelligence, where anything you're going to upload, it's going to analyze that. So anything with a blue bag, it's going to make it really easy. So we got lots of footage of, oh, where's that shot of this object, this blue bag. I could do person. This is kind of beta at this point, and will continue to be improved, but anything with a person in it, I can say videos from last week. I'll search that, and standard results, this is what you would get prior to this. So a month ago you said videos from last week, it's just going to say, oh, there's video in the name. That's not what I'm looking for. If I go to media intelligence results, it's going to find videos and check the date. So anything from the last week is automatically to go here for me. So it's really easy to find what you're looking for, stay organized. It's all beta, recently announced, but we're super stoked about that. Yeah, that's kind of a brief overview of Frame IO version 4. I guess,
and of course, because it's all the Adobe family, once you have it in there, it's going to be very easy to drag this over and bring this into Premiere, so it becomes a whole ecosystem that you're a part of now that you've gotten into Adobe Frame IO.
Yep, we've got an awesome panel within Premiere that makes it really easy to access all this stuff. And yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, so if I have does that mean I have free access to
Frame IO. So yeah, Frame IO, if you have a Creative Cloud All Apps subscription, you can get 2 users, and I think it's either 100 gigs or 200 gigs. Don't quote me on that, but that at least gets you started. You can make a free trial for Frame, I think for 2 weeks, at least get started with it. Or you could do a free account, but it only gives you like 2 gigabytes of storage, so it's kind of just to play around with it. Yeah, if not, I think it starts at around $15 a month for 2 terabytes. It goes up from there. Just check the website.
Are there any other questions out there? Yes, you.
For battery life on the cameras, how much will that affect?
Luckily, the C400 and the C80 are excellent at their kind of power management. So the battery life isn't really going to show much of a difference. The C50 is a little different. As a hybrid camera, they tend to be a little more power hungry. It's better than the R5C was, but we always recommend that you have an external power source, maybe a USB-C power source for the C50. because it's going to eat up a little more. But it should be fairly negligible. Obviously, there's going to be some, if you leave the camera on to finish all those uploads, it's literally just leaving the camera on longer is what you're doing there. Yes?
Lookup tables. I saw everything that seems to be
Good, yes.
Like 709.
Yes.
You turn it off and just have a log.
Yes.
Across.
Actually, Joey, can you go to the camera menu for a second?
And then does your editor do the same LUT in the event that you want to apply it? How's that work?
Yes, so I'm glad you asked that. So if you go to your second card features, you can choose, say you're shooting log. So instead of Canon 709, I'm shooting Canon log 2. And so I get the full, I get Canon log 2 on my main format, my 6K raw 12-bit. And then on the second card though, I want to send 709 to the editor. So you can actually get into, whoops, kind of screwing up here. Here we go. At the bottom, you can either conform to custom picture and send the log, and then your editor will add a LUT on their end. Or you can send either flavor of 709 that we've got built in here. So you can apply user LUTs to the C400 internally, but these are your only options to send out via Frame.io right now. You can conform to conform to your setting in the camera, or you can choose one of these two 709s to send out there so that they already have it baked in.
And I'll say, generally speaking, a lot of use cases that like to use Rec 709 or a LUTted image because that's just going to be nicer to look at, but I've definitely seen workflows where they'll send log. And we've got integrations with like LiveGrade and things like that to automatically send LUTs to Frame.io as well. So it just kind of depends on the workflow you'd like to do, but you've got some different options. But generally speaking, Rec 709 LUTted works best for you.
Sorry, one more question. Variable frames. If you're shooting over frame, under frame, or a variable frame rate, does it come across fine, everything
Yeah, the frame rate should match what your master file. So you should be all good on that. So, yeah.
And yeah, anything like Frame.io is compatible with a lot of different video file types. I know like raw files, it's not going to be able to decode that, but it's a lot of codecs are very friendly with it. And everything uploaded to Frame automatically transcodes H.264 proxies at different resolutions. It doesn't touch the original, but for web playback smoothness, you've got a lot of different options, and you can download those separately too.
I guess one last question.
Yeah, no, I love it.
So the audio is the embedded audio from the camera. You're not syncing your daily audio.
Yes.
So it's sure it's accurate, it's locked.
Exactly. The audio is embedded, and you can actually send a WAV file also separately.
That's just for your offline, to your full audio file.
Correct. Yeah. So you've got a few options there, and then you can tell in your what I'm sending to Frame.io settings. You can either you can tell it to send the audio separately as well or not when you're selecting your codecs to send. Yeah. Did you have a question right there? Right at the buzzer.
So for setting up like multicam, you said that you could like name it like the like shooter's name or name like ADC. Is that like when you're setting up when you first put the code in, or is that kind of like at the end of the day you just change it? Like,
You can change that. You can rename a camera at any point on the Frame.io side of things. Generally, it's best to do that before you're shooting, only because say I named this A camera, we shot 4 clips. Then I renamed it, Matt's camera. It would then create a new folder called Matt's camera, so not everything would be in the same folder. Maybe that would be a good thing if you wanted to like separate that, but whenever you can, at any point in Frame, you can rename it, and then once it shoots a new asset, it'll create a new folder with that naming convention. So whatever kind of works best for you.
So I think that's all the time we have. I do invite you all to explore the rest of the Canon space. Have yourself some coffee or some hot cider back there. See our cameras over in the main showroom. And please wander down to the Adobe house. Derek and his colleagues are down there with C400 gimmicks.
Yeah, we got a C400.
And they've got all of all of the different elements that they can talk about, plus so much more that we didn't even touch on in the whole Adobe creative space. So yeah.
Yeah, we got like some cool activations, like a video photo booth type thing. A lot of cool swag. Make your own beanie with your own patches, and a lot of other good stuff. So definitely worth waiting in line a little bit and checking out. So please come on by.
So thanks very much to Derek for coming and joining us today. Thank you all for attending the panel, and please enjoy Sundance 2026.
Enjoy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.